Снова всем привет!
Again, hello everyone. Alexey Vishnyakov as usual, and we have the last discussion of today. We discussed a lot of interesting solutions, EDR, network analyzers, CDM, and now we have to go through the last door, and we'll go there together with my guest, Yuliya Fomina, head of the group of expertise of security product in the security center. We're not going to have the third person here because right now we cannot, within this context, within such an approach to product, to find an external colleague. So we're going to discuss it, just the two of us. I'm going to be a moderator and a tester. Yuliya is going to tell us a lot about how the defense technology of metaproducts should be built. So let's start with the main question. I believe that about 10, no more than 15 persons have the answer. What is meta products? Why do you need them? What is the specifics? Why do they call it this way? So give us the context, what we are going to talk about. Well, yes, I think to start talking about meta products, we have to go back to the previous discussions about different classes of products and understand the problem that exists. Any product, any attack disclosure product generates alerts, a lot of alerts sometimes. Each class of products has its pros and contras. What one sees, the other doesn't see. Of course, there are some bypass methods, although bypass methods can also be prevented. SOC monitoring team, if it wants to be effective and disclose the attackers, even if attacks are just advanced, they have to use a lot of products, a lot of consoles, alerts, false positives, and all that needs a team that has to deal with all that. Meta product is the solution that has to help different kinds of products to work together and provide a common verdict and tell the analysts what happens, validate positives, and do it through one single console. When we talk a lot about disclosure rules, but actually any security, any monitoring starts with the disclosure. It's only a starting point. When you see a positive, then this is not the end. This is the beginning. You have to collect the context, realize how to react, and the answer to this question is provided by meta product. After detection, you need even more expertise than for detection. Good, very good. A very broad approach. And we have to discuss all that. We have to note, though, that in the previous discussion, we had several questions that were not answered. And it's a good box for us that we're going to deal with right now. Let's move on and close those questions. At the preparation level, we predicted where the main problems are to discuss them right now. The first story, we have the slides. They are funny because we are all tired. It's the end of the day. But that's what we're going to do. Why do we have Ninja Turtles? The matter is that we have to discuss OPT-style attacks. In this context, APT can mean anything. Anything which is unknown is APT, and then only we find out. APT attacks are long. Advanced persistent attacks are long, extended, and the target justifies the long route. It's concealed, it's hidden, because it's very, very extended in time. And it's like ninja movement. It moves slowly, but surely. And slow speed helps you reach the target. That's why Ninja Turtles. So, APT attacks can be divided into long stages or steps or phases. Is this a problem for the meta products that you mentioned before? Briefly, no. Look, we see that all products do what we cannot do. In SIEM, we have correlation engine. In AT, there is XBit to look at data between the sessions. And the idea of slow attacks came from sandboxes, when you have a file and then it sleeps, and after a long time it starts its malicious actions. The meta product doesn't work with the correlation engines. It works with specific essences. One essence is a file, and it doesn't matter for the meta product when the file starts acting. As long as the file exists, all the processes, all the actions will be collected in one chain and linked to one attack chain. It doesn't matter how fast it works, how often it works, once every 3 seconds or once every 3 weeks. It shows us that hacking, the process, malicious process is here, and it doesn't, then the speed doesn't matter. Ninja Turtles are different, with different tools and weapons. Let's imagine that hackers are now at 1, 2, or maybe even 5 hosts, and they start their distributed attack. They take one piece of information from one host, the other from another host. Then at the third host, they carried out a local attack without much success. They continued it from the fourth host, and so on. You can continue for a long time, but the idea is that we, from different points, from different addresses, start performing malicious actions. Each of them, taken separately, mean nothing special, but taken together, they are clearly malicious. Previously discussed tools provided security this way, the other way. What about meta product? Yeah, let's see that hackers found 5 backdoors, which do not have anything in common. Not 5 phishing letters, but 5 different entry points, and they don't have common resources, so that we could understand that this is action of one organization, one group, or one hacker. What happens next? Then each attack starts developing. They collect information here, in some data there. At the fourth point, they did something not very accurately. The sensors detected it. A certain chain was built. They realized that a hacker is here, and the metaproduct reacted or offered a script for an analyst, and the hacker was deleted at a certain point, but the hacker already has information and continues working at the previous points. So the linkage algorithms help us realize that these are actions of one person or one group. Because it's very difficult to make attacks so parallel that those parallel streams do not interact with each other at all. We shall see that they are aiming at one target. To anything. For example, he can build different files, attach random names, attack different directories. For SIEM, for IDR, it will be different. A Yara scanner may say, I looked this, looked that, and this is very similar. Maybe this is the same. It's very difficult to build the attack in such a way that the attack directions do not intersect absolutely. Types of instruments, usage of the same cloud servers. These simple, tiny things help us link all that together. But even if it doesn't happen, even this is not a problem for the metaproduct. Even if we don't know that this is one attack, we see two parallel attacks. We build a reaction scenario, and we shall react to both of them as one attack or as two different attacks. It doesn't matter. So you linked everything by small, tiny, little things in the same. I agree with you, and I have something to do. So linkage, gluing them together. But I can make a mistake. I can put together different attacks. So these two people, two persons linked or glued wallpaper in the wrong way. What if a hacker will try to manipulate your linkage errors so that events will be linked erroneously? For example, incorrect fields, incorrect ways to files, processor types, signatures, some symbols that will force your systems to behave erroneously, mixing legal and illegal activities. And it's an abuse, hacker abuse. What will happen if a hacker will abuse the linkage techniques? Is it possible to do that? Look, you speak about event, fields, symbols. Well, metaproduct, it doesn't matter for metaproduct, because the metaproduct operates with different entities like node, asset or account, what then is important for the meta product? Using operations with entities. If we see the process and its activities. Why I asked that? Because it looks as if the file name coincided, or if the process launch coincided, if something coincided, it will help you link different things together. And I just worried, what if a hacker generates an event that cannot be glued, and you cannot glue together 2 or 3 different threads? Linkage needs validity or validation of objects. Or can the hacker do that at all?
Ну, то есть смотри, то есть все вот эти вот
Well, all these things that meta product uses, they are the entities that it gets from other product classes, alerts from SIEM, traffic from NTA solutions, and we trust this data. The question is different. It's the linkage algorithms. It generates activity for us to make mistakes in linkage, but this is activity of the same hacker. Even if he imitates a legitimate user, when we collect something into that chain, one single chain, it's all right. Compromising legitimate resources, it's another thing. And we can see how the user was compromised, or we can miss this compromising activity. Usually it happens. There is a user in the network, does his job. In the morning, he connects, he pays some money, gets some money. There are some alerts, positive, false positives. And in parallel, under the same account, an attacker starts doing something maliciously. How not to link these two things? So today, all activity of this account belongs to one hacker. No, this is wrong. The algorithm of linkage should be more flexible and more accurate. And we have to use other data as well. Anything. For instance, a user which every day does the same things, then there are some behavior methods. Before this, everything went on this way, and then at a certain moment, this is a moment of compromise. And after that, what goes on is non-typical and malicious. So all kinds of products under the meta product, they are not products as such. They are technologies that we can use, and we can use any technologies that we need for our particular task. If we need email, okay. If we want EDR file, okay. If we need traffic, we go to SIEM and see what kind of process generated that traffic. These tasks are the tasks of the meta product. Apart from what you mentioned, I noticed the following. At the previous discussion, we had one question, unanswered question. How can we link data when we have little time, when we have too many resources, lack of time, huge insufficient resources? And you say, as I understand it, you speak about low-level products and higher-level products. For linkage, you have to be sure that the products which provide data to the metaproduct are not compromised, that they work all right, that the data they provide is correct, they function in the right way. When we discussed these questions at the previous discussion, how the hacker can break into such products, we agreed that the compromise sooner or later can be successful. That's important because, of course, we can trust data, we can expect trusted data only if it can be guaranteed by the lower level products. I have another slide. What does it mean? What is this game about? How to get the neighbor? Actually, in this computer game, the person works with the adverse events, not Morris, somebody else. So what's the point here? We try in each company to protect not absolutely everything, but the most important things. And we have to find out what is most important for the company, and we must protect it in the best possible way. Let's stand off of this event. I have a simple question. Can we, in principle, take and implement the risk in a hidden way? It happens here when a young person lays the mines and the neighbor walks around, explodes until an intolerable event happens when he dies. Can we implement an intolerable event in a hidden way that it cannot be detected? When we talk about adverse events, we're talking about the companies which are at a certain level of maturity of their data security. They have SOCs, SOCs that monitor products, look at alerts, register products, and it so happens that undisclosed events can be undisclosed when you bypass the sensors that operate in the company. In principle, it may happen, but we were talking about each particular product individually. But when all those products work together, the task becomes very difficult, if not impossible. If you bypass one product, you leave traces in another product. If you bypass sandbox, you can be registered in Windows events. I don't know, if you switch off all events, no data is coming, then immediately that fact will be disclosed, and then you are not going to work within one machine. You have to move on. Then network sensors start working. It's much more difficult to bypass them. When the products work together as one system, when products help each other, the non-disclosed implementation becomes next to impossible. Then also, bypass product is not about turning off SIEM. You can operate in a hidden way, file without metadata. You have thousands of events of this kind, and SOC analysts cannot validate and verify each of such events. Who
Вот. И потом в какой-то момент в другом куске сети мы видим
downloaded the
другое
file, what
несколько
did the file do,
приоритетный
then
алерт о
it's a
том,
low
что было открыто
priority
какое-то
alert.
подозрительное сетевое соединение.
So
Вот.
suspected
Но
network
вообще
connection,
вот
but
самая фишка метапродукта в том, что
so
вот эти вот алерты,
metaproduct
которые низкоприоритетные, на
looks at
самом деле не
low
являются
priority
низкоприоритетных
alerts
алертов. Любой
for
алерт
the
триггерит к
metaproduct.
запуску других действий, к запросу
Any
тех
alert,
событий,
low
которые были
priority or
вокруг.
high
То
priority is
есть
the trigger to
низкоприоритетный алерт за
launch
собой
certain
строит целую
activities.
цепочку, а как же к этому привело? И
Metaproduct
в
doesn't
итоге
have low
низкоприоритетный алерт
priority
в одной
alerts.
части сети и
If it is low
низкоприоритетный алерт в другой
priority
части
in
сети
another
в итоге
part,
могут
and if
связаться
you
и
have the
сказать, что у нас
same
было
low
целое
priority
действие
network in
последовательное, и
another
между ними
part
есть
of the network,
ну, вот тут
it
явно
looks at
что-то
the
не так.
similarities
А у людей,
and it
у
can
них
tell you
просто
that
нет столько
something is
ресурсов
really
для
wrong here.
плюс того,
A
что все
human
вот эти вот
being
вещи
cannot have
можно обрабатывать
resources
машинными
to
мощностями.
process
Классно.
such
Мы
things, but
буквально
a
идем
machine
прям по,
can do that.
значит,
So,
последствиям
excellent,
предыдущей дискуссии.
good.
У нас
So
буквально
we are
там
following the previous
возникал вопрос,
discussion. It's a
а
discussion
что же будет делать
uh,
специалист, которого
what will
немножко будоражит
the
события,
analyst
инциденты,
do
которые
when
срабатывали разной
it
степени
has a
приоритизации.
billion
Он
low,
просто не будет
low
лезть
priority
в кучу смотреть, потому что он
alerts?
устал, потому что
He is not going to
это рискованно и
analyze
тому
all
подобное.
of
А ты
them.
буквально говоришь о том, что, ну
And
ладно,
you
в
are
данном случае метапродукт
saying that
все это должен автоматизированно связывать,
your
как раз
product
таки
will
снимать всю эту нагрузку с
automatically
людей.
analyze
Вот,
them,
очень
reducing the
важное,
workload
как бы, да,
for the
следствие из
analysts,
того, что мы
which is
наговорили,
very good
вот
indeed.
сейчас это все замкнулось.
And
У меня
so
есть другая здесь
that's
еще
a good answer.
добавка
But
комментария.
I have
Кажется, верно
another
ли,
comment.
что
Is it true
сюда же попадают всякие
that
дженериковые правила,
all
которые
kind
люди
of
пишут там
generic rules are
дома,
here that
а получается на деле,
people
что они потом не всегда
generate,
применимы из-за того, что
and
кто-то
in
написал
fact they
JavaScript.
are not
Но там что-то
applicable?
работает, получается, в кассу и круто.
Да, на самом
In your
деле,
case,
получается, вот
all
то,
of
с
them
чем
are
мы всю
good.
жизнь боролись, то
Yes,
есть количество
what
срабатываний,
we were
количество
fighting
регистрируемых
against
инцидентов,
each other, the
метапродукт, он просто
huge
взял и
number of
перевернул вот это
positives,
восприятие реальности. Мы теперь можем себе
metaproduct
позволить иметь вот сколько
use
угодно
them
вот
as
этих
a
вот
benefit,
дженериков, которые
not as a
сидят,
drawback. We
впитывают
can
все,
have as many
дают вот этот
generics
триггер для
as possible.
раскручивания
It will
расследований.
be a trigger
За счет того, что
for
происходит автоматически,
investigation
мы себе можем
by the
позволить
metaproduct.
обрабатывать просто
It's done
невероятно большой объем
automatically,
данных
and
и
you can
складывать два
process a
низкоприоритетных,
huge,
suspicious
very
алерта в
huge
один там
number of
мега, получается,
alerts.
high critical incident.
And those
Мгм.
alerts can be glued
Здорово. Слушай,
together
ну
as one
как будто бы
critical
пока по
incident.
части
Well,
тех
it
уловок,
looks
которые тут
as
пытались
if
использовать в недавности, мы
the
прям замечательным
unanswered
образом прошлись.
questions of the
Следующая
previous
история. Новая критика. Что же на ней?
presentations get
Так,
their
читать.
answers. This
Кинокартина
is a new
создает, может быть,
picture.
эту замечательную.
What is it?
Вот.
Who knows?
Что-то вроде убойных каникул это называется, где мужчины переживают, как детишки самоуничтожаются на
Those
открытом воздухе. Вот. Казалось бы, к
males.
чему, да, это все? К тому, что, а что если
Well,
хакер, значит,
what
какой-то
if
будет
a hacker
подставным образом формировать срабатывание,
will
на которое потом
generate
придет реагировать
positives
самый метапродукт, и
that the
отреагирует таким
metaproduct
образом,
will have
ну,
to
возможно, там
react
автоматизированно в каких-то же случаях, да, это должно предполагаться,
automatically
что он все
in
потом
such
испортит.
a
То есть
way
какие-то
as
цепочки
a lot of
в
other things will
обнаружении
be destroyed.
склеились в то, что ну прям вот
So if you can
бесполезно тебе,
glue
читал известно,
together
что файлик
a lot of
Windows
things
System 32 TCP/IP.sys
that
в
is
редакторе
going
приходит, значит, 102,
to
выпиливает
delete
TCP/IP.sys, из каждого компьютера в инфраструктуре, и
TCP/IP.sys
вся инфраструктура больше
in all
не
the
будет носить
infrastructure,
интернет.
and the
Вот,
infrastructure
что
will
начнет делать?
lose
Продать
internet
плакать.
access.
Вот, как
What
будто
are we
бы
going to
история
do
имела даже
then?
такое
I
в прошлом.
think
Вот,
something like that
что тут
happened
будет,
before.
если
What
хакер
is going
займется
to
вот такой
happen?
задачей? Это вообще будет какой-то проблемой? Это вообще
Can it
реалистичный
happen?
сценарий?
Is it
Ты
realistic?
знаешь, мы когда начинали делать метапродукты,
You
у
know,
нас
when we
была
started
похожая
doing
история. У
metaproducts, we had a
нас
similar
такой же сценарий
story in a sense
реагирования,
that
который предложил удалить
we
сеть.
have a similar
Вот, руководитель
response
строго на это
scenario which
посмотрел
suggested
и
to
говорит, ну,
raise, to
я не
delete
уверен,
the
что так
system.
вообще можно.
And our head
Если
of
можно, то
SLC
как-то
department said
страшно.
that I'm not sure, and if we
Вот,
can do that,
Позднее уточню, систем
at
это
least
вот
I'm
тот вот
scared.
запись систем, да, надо
да.
удалить просто.
So the system
Вроде с
account,
компьютеров удалил
you
системную
just
цепочку.
delete
Да.
Прекрасно
system
так.
from all the computers.
Вот.
Okay, sounds
И
good.
действительно, вот этот вот сценарий построения плейбука
And really,
реагирования — это
such a
архиважно для
system
метапродукта.
of
Потому
response
что
is extremely
вообще
important
изначально
for metaproduct, because initially it should be said that it has to be efficient. And what I said from the very beginning, that every registered alert would entail a lot of expertise that has to be there in order to react to the attack the right way. Because I don't know, we see a certificate being issued, we see some very suspicious actions have been done, and the account has been blocked, the password has been changed, and the employee comes to the office and the criminals are having his certificate, where, for instance, there would be some sophisticated script that would launch at every machine where the user is going to log in. If you do not react efficiently, then in essence it would not make any sense. Therefore, building the right response scenario is extremely important, regardless of whether we trust the product with auto reaction or we just suggest to the operator scenario as to what has to be done. The reaction has to be least invasive in the sense that it should not undermine the business processes. We see the malware at the user's machine, isolate that from the network is easy. Isolating important infrastructural server is no good. Therefore, initially the reaction should be least invasive if we know that we can just kill a process, and that would be enough in order to stop an attack, then such a response would be enough. And obviously there has to be some validation, as the process is not system that the machine would not show just the blue screen only. So that's a very relevant question. Okay, sounds good. Let me continue with inventing things. Let us imagine that criminals managed to penetrate unnoticeably to the very middle of the attack. So we do not see what has already been done. So they did that covertly, surreptitiously, and in that point, they used 5 to 6 different positions to immediately develop an attack. So the idea is that they try to scale up the number of such chains that would trigger our response, but naturally it would result in the fact that there will be lots of playbooks to react to that, but they all would require human reaction. Why? Because what would help us to react with least invasiveness won't exist because we failed to detect them at an early stage. So it means that it happens somewhere in a very critical segment. These are the machines that are generating power, for instance, or which are running the uranium recycling system, and we cannot stop that process if it is important for the business. And then, actually, you look at the playbook, then we cancel that, and then the hackers are using that downtime in order to do whatever they want. So such as an absolutely theoretical situation, but I believe that this might be possible. And in that case, in terms of people and meta-product, what is going to be done? And here we have to make one step back. That hidden attack which goes from perimeter to SCADA system, it was so covered that this response scenario was not triggered in the middle of the journey, that the hackers were sitting in some rooms, their eyes being blinded, that they didn't have any points of coincidence, that these were really 5 independent chains that did not make up into one chain, and still the destination, the point is the same. If we believe that is so crucial, critical, and the decision has been taken by a man, by a human,
значит, он его принимает, ему предлагается сценарий
so it means that this is what the response scenario suggests, and this is what the man does. But what we come up with,
есть там количество критичных систем, там на каждой из них есть оператор, и в принципе нам не
there is an operator, there are a lot of critical systems, and it means that we do not have to scale up the SLC system and increase the number of the people in team depending on the sensors and alerts that we have. And hackers
а им надо максимально наращивать вообще
have
свои
to scale up their resources in order to make sure that this attack takes place. So the hacker has EDR or something else and certain events, and the operator decides to react and just pushes the button. I think that everyone wants to be the guy on the right, although I am the one who is on the left. I do hope that this would happen eventually. So I got from you,
У нас нет проблемы с тем, что мы бесконечно вынуждены
there
масштабировать
is no problem that we have to scale up the human resources because
рисковых систем, недопустимых.
we have a limited number of critical infrastructure systems, and therefore we can control that and verify all those playbooks. And such playbooks, will they merge into one?
В классическом понимании, то есть один плейбук реагирования дается
Well,
для
one
одной цепочки
response
атаки
playbook
независимо.
is issued for one chain of attack independently.
Продуктом, как
And while it
разные
is
атаки,
perceived
разные цепочки, разные злоумышленники, это будут разные плейбуки.
as
Опять же, их не будет бесконечно
one
много,
chain,
поэтому
the
нельзя
playbook would
придумать
be
бесконечно
only
много
one, but
непересекающихся
there would
сценариев.
be only one such playbook because the number of independent scenarios is limited. So we have another picture. There were lots of nice pictures, but here is another. I was to draw that picture on my own,
Что здесь
Um,
за ситуация?
but I found that on the internet. What situation is there?
Что хакеры
Let's imagine
начинают
that
активным
hackers
образом, создавать ложные шумы.
start creating false noises.
Да, в общем,
What
это
will it
что
be?
угодно.
It
Что
might
мы
be
ранее
whatever
говорили, они генерят
you can
кучу
imagine.
дженериковых
They would
событий,
generate a lot of
они генерят
generic
кучу
events.
потока, они генерят кучу
They would generate a lot of
приоритетных срабатываний. И
middle
всё это они могут
priority
еще и
alerts, and they may
потенциальных
generate a lot of
которые
potential
какие-то
correlations.
инстансы висят, ожидая
Some
пяток шесток
uncovered
событий,
instances,
которые висят, ждут,
about
ждут,
5 to
ожидают,
6
ждут,
events,
ждут,
and
ждут,
they
ждут,
would
ждут.
be
То есть они начинают
waiting
просто
until
активно,
something else
люди по
happens. And
путям
so,
спамить в нижестоящие средства.
and they are
При этом,
spamming the
какой-то
downstream
спам можно
systems.
представить на картиночке.
And you can imagine that
В
downstream,
одном месте они одним образом, да, спамят,
these are the
в
red
другом
dots
месте
in
уже с
one
другим, там, допустим,
place, and in
там,
other place they are blue dots,
активно, и что там
where the
пытаются,
hackers are spamming something and try to
где-то там подальше,
simulate
в
something.
таком логическом контексте они еще что-то придумывают. И вот они
And then they
что-то
can come up
делают,
with
идет как
something
раз с
else,
учетом той картинки, которую мы только что посмотрели.
bear in mind what we have
Люди
just
отрабатывают,
done.
они отрабатывают свои
And
деньги, в
so
конце концов.
people are working, they
Но в
are
какой-то
getting their
момент
money for that.
из
But
какого-нибудь вот этого шумного
at some
кластера
moment, out of
начинает
such noisy
медленно
cluster,
осуществляться,
slowly,
ну, такой вот вектор маленький, скромный,
a sidetrack goes
начинает
there,
стремляться к
which
чему-то разумному в этой самой атаке,
seeks something reasonable
да,
in
целевой,
such an attack,
значит, недопустимой рисковой истории. Вот
some
ситуация
intolerable,
объемной
risky
генерации
event.
шума вообще
The
помешает как-то разобраться
voluminous generation of noise, will it help to identify, to detect that hacker who get out of that noise cluster or not? Well, that was a very interesting story because usually such noisy alerts, they really scare the SOC analysts because you can hide behind them. But while I was listening to you, I realized that for metaproducts, that doesn't matter. We can actually speak about the scoring methods. And we have 300 hackers in our infrastructure who generate some noise in order to divert the operator, and he sees 300 chains. And these chains are not lengthy because this noise, this is not about the beginning of the attack. These are some repeated activities which exist on their own. And the scoring algorithm may be handy. There are 300 chains, and they have to rank it in order to find the 301st where the attack is evolving. So, and it means this is just like with false alerts. Initially, there was a big problem. The analysts are trusting their sensors, and once we get that, we try to validate that, to consider that, and usually in the classical conventional infrastructure, there are a lot of false alerts on different administrative scripts. And you can imagine two chains. In one, there is a script. This is being launched every day, which does the same actions, which visit the same nodes, and you would get about 300,000 alerts for that. And there is a smaller chain where there would be just 2 alerts which are connected due to some context, but there is some sequences actions. The process being launched, there is a timeout, and then we see some move.
Независимо от количества алертов, вот из этого большого шума, который происходит в инфраструктуре.
And because of that noise in the infrastructure, we have to identify certain actions and to identify the activity that we have to focus on or to react to that and take some actions.
Мне вот интересно, все ли успевают за мыслью следить? Смотрю, что едва...
Do you follow what our speaker is saying? I see that people are giving it a try. That's great that we are recording that. Because then you will be able to listen to that once again, and probably more than once. This understanding of connectivity and the covered nature. I have no more questions. What else I may add? Summarize it. What our previous colleagues have said already. We're not living in a vacuum, and hackers are human beings. And what kind of people they are, you can judge by standoff. They suffer, they fail. And if you visit a chat with Blue Team and standoff, you will see a lot of tabooed words, sufferings and cries and tears. When both sides actually are very motivated, both would suffer. And certainly, I came up with more sophisticated citations, and eventually that never is coming true. But conceptually, that vision of a solution that you mentioned should address, and that's the most important thing. It only leaves us not to lose the touch with the reality, so those who are involved in such a situation.